Today on Week in Review, the Canada Post strike has now hit over a week in length. The Cassian Hospital is set to open this Monday, and new body cams will now be given to the RCMP. Hello, I'm Damian Smith, and welcome to Week in Review, where we cover all the news here in the Northwest. Well, over 55,000 workers with Canada Post have now gone under strike, and we're now pushing over a week since the strike started last Friday. And of course, this affects smaller business owners and those workers in the Terrace community.
Now, after a week-long strike wrapping up yesterday from port workers in BC and Montreal, a new strike is starting as of this morning. And on Tuesday, Canada Post workers put out a 72-hour notice that workers would go on strike, with delivery services unavailable and limited offices being open. And here we are on Friday, with both parties unable to come to an agreement after a year of negotiations.
That's why we're going on strike, to make it strong towards Canada Post, to make sure that we're making our statement and we want a better workplace for our co-workers.
As 95% of the 55,000 total workers voted in favor of going on strike, local president Marie McKinney states that a lot of it comes down to the cost of living.
Right now, we're not keeping up with all the demands with the groceries and the cost of living and all that.
Canada Post has stated that they have offered an 11.5% pay increase over 4 years, along with additional pay leave, a defined benefit pension, and job security provisions. And whether producer or consumer, small businesses will be affected by this strike, with Black Friday 2 weeks from now, along with Christmas just 6 weeks away.
Definitely, it does make it difficulty for the small businesses and everything. Me, myself, I do have a small business, and I'm going to be starting up another one in that. And we rely on Canada Post to make that effort. But with our corporation not coming to our terms, or even with both parties, it's kind of hard for us to even do that. So that's why we're striking for it.
We're on day one of the official strike, with the last strike reaching about a month in length back in 2018. And we'll continue to monitor how this may affect the local economy here in Northwest BC.
What we want is just for our negotiators to come to agreement that both are wanting to be done and everything, because we're all in this together with brothers and sisters.
From CFTK-TV in Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
And the BC RCMP have just revealed that they are to roll out body-worn cameras to 6 different communities in British Columbia. And this is the largest rollout of any police agency, with more than 3,000 cameras to be deployed over the next 12 to 18 months. Though no communities in the Northwest will be acquiring these cameras, Prince George will be receiving them, as well as Fort St. John in January of 2025. And the communities receiving right now are Tofino, Mission, Cranbrook Highway Patrol, Kamloops, and of course Prince George. Deputy Commissioner Dwayne McDonald cited that the RCMP will see benefits in officer safety and should set a standard for all officers around the country. Well, the family of Aidan Waddle, who has been missing since November 10th from Kitwankul Lake, have since provided an update. And on Tuesday evening, the family announced with heavy hearts that the search for Aidan has come to an end. The family says they do not want others to risk their safety, as the grounds and water are very difficult to traverse, and they thanked everyone who has turned out to help as well as donated. The Houston, Terrace, and Kitkatla search and rescue teams, the Canadian Rangers and RCMP, and Arrays and Hummingbird drones all assisted in the search. And search and rescue say crews used sonar to search the lake bottom in addition to the lake and wooded area. The family said they will still be at the lake daily until the water freezes over. And the District of Kitimat has announced that a new floating dock will be installed at Minette Bay West Park. The installation of the project will start on December 4th and is said to open up marine access for small watercraft such as kayaks or canoes. And while the work is underway, Minette Bay West Park will be closing and should be closed off until the start of the new year. For quite some time now, a piece of land has been vacant on Gregg Avenue in Terrace, untouched in the city's downtown core. But this past spring, the Métis Nation of BC purchased co-op lands for $1.27 million from the city of Terrace, located at the corner of Gregg and Calum Street. 2.8 acres of construction is now underway at 4617 Greg Ave, and a daycare center will be the starting piece on the land. The daycare construction is expected to be finished by spring of 2025. And Kitimat City Council has recently made the decision to pass a motion that will give grant funds to a project that will be mainly done on Heisla Boulevard. The project in question will be done in several phases, and its ultimate goal is to build a walkway on the street so that pedestrians and cyclists traveling in the area can be just a little bit safer. The project is also supposed to upgrade the stretch spanning between Kingfisher Avenue and Nallabilla Boulevard, such as adding better lighting and patching up the pathways. And both Kitimat and the Regional District of Kitimat-Stikine are said to be helping cover the costs of the upcoming second as well as the third phase of the project, which are $715,000 and $680,000, by committing $215,000 and $204,000 each, respectively. Up next, MP Taylor Bachrach speaks about the number of strikes that have occurred in recent memory. Welcome back. Well, MP Taylor Bachrach says that recent use of arbitration to send picketers back to work sends the wrong impression to employers. Here's CFTK's Jayleen Matthews with more.
MP Taylor Bachrach has voiced his concerns about the government's use of binding arbitration to force people back to work.
Now, we saw this with the rail workers, we saw it with the port workers, and now Canada Post is on strike, and I think there's a concern that the government may do something similar in that case as well. Now, of course, there are always concerns and difficulties when it comes to the impact of labor disruptions on the economy and on people's lives. But the right to collectively bargain is in the Constitution, and we know that the agreements that are made at the table are more durable. They're better agreements. So I'm very concerned looking down the road if the government is going to use this sledgehammer in Section 107 to resolve every major labor dispute. It really serves to undermine workers' right to collective bargaining.
Bachrach says this impedes collective bargaining from taking place.
We need to see fair deals, we need to see timely deals, and we need to see workers' rights respected in this country.
The Canada Post disruption will also delay passport delivery as well as business invoices traveling through the system, and they are not accepting new items until the disruption is over. Canada Post and the union have agreed to continue delivering government benefit checks.
So, I know everyone is watching this closely. It's impacting people's lives. But my hope, my sincere hope, is that they can reach an equitable agreement as soon as possible.
For CFTK-TV News in Terrace, I'm Jayleen Matthews.
And Kitimat's RCMP recently put out a report on what they had encountered during the earlier half of November. And one of the more uncommon cases they listed saw a chainsaw stolen on November 10th from a shed on a Chaco neighborhood residence. However, the item does not appear to be found just yet. And anyone who may have any information that can lead to it being discovered is asked to call the Kitimat RCMP at 250-632-7111. Another documented case saw a pair of officers manage to take two impaired drivers off of the road on the same day right around the same time, with one vehicle being stopped on Wakashin Boulevard and the other was discovered on Tsimshian Boulevard. As the ornaments come out and residents begin decorating for Christmas, the Thornhill Fire Department wants to remind people of a few safety considerations for the season. Once again, here's CFTK's Jayleen Matthews.
With the season of Yule drawing nearer, there's a few things to consider before getting swept away in the holiday hubbub. As you pick out or pull out your tree, here's what to keep in mind.
If you guys have a fake tree, it's obviously one of the safer ones. That being said, it is fuels within that tree that can light up. So keeping the candles, any kind of ignition source further away from that tree is always the best practice. For the live trees, making sure you water them. Keep that moisture within that timber so that doesn't turn into a candle for you as well.
Also think about safety distances within the home.
If you do have the candles in the corner, keeping them away from the couch, make sure that they're on a hard surface, making sure that all those fuels are staying away from any other ignition source.
Lights are another thing to consider.
Absolutely. So string lights and extension cords all go hand in hand. So making sure that you give them a good inspection before you put them out there at the beginning of the season when you start to put them on the house. Make sure there's no frays, no cracks, no tears within the outer sheath of that electrical so that we don't get the sparks.
And Captain Doss says it's probably best to get it done earlier.
Stringing up Christmas lights, again, try and do it early into the fall if you can. Don't be getting up there when there's snow and the ice is already building up on the roof. If that's the case, do it from a good, safe ground ladder rather than being up on the roof and putting yourself at risk.
For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
After not running in 2023, the Terrace firefighters and RCMP swapped out their uniforms for hockey equipment as they played in Guns and Hoses, which is known as a staple in the Terrace community. And while the firemen did get the win on the ice with a 7-4 victory over the RCMP at the Terrace Sportsplex main arena, the biggest winner looks to be Jumpstart for Kids, who are the ones that will be receiving all of the donations from the game. And early reports are alleging that the game was able to bring in over $12,000, but the donation should be quite big regardless of the actual number. Now announced Tuesday morning, the Nisga'a Nation and the First Nations in the Northwest lost their beloved and respected chief, Samagat Highmass, who peacefully passed away this morning with his family at his side. Highmass was known as an artist, composer of many cultural songs, and created many cultural dance groups in his community. He has also received many recognitions throughout the years, such as Order of British Columbia and the Dreamcatcher Foundation Award, which is to honor trailblazing Indigenous leaders. On this upcoming November 23rd, the Terrace Community Band will be making its way to the REM Lee Theatre for a concert that will officially kick off year number 42 of their existence. People wanting to attend the concert will be charged an admission fee to gain entrance, but instead will have to give away something as a donation, with the concert starting at 7:30 p.m. And donations for the entry can also be made in advance at Misty River Books, and the theme for the concert this go around is said to be ambient fantasies. Other places and times that you can see this band perform include at the yearly July 1st Canada Day celebration located at the Terrace Fire Hall, as well as another annual event, which is the Prince Rupert Seafest Community Celebration. After the break, the Cassian Hospital prepares for its opening week this Monday. Welcome back. Well, after years of preparation, the Cassian Hospital will be open to the public this Monday. This past week saw some preparation duties that needed to be met.
The Cassian Hospital will officially be open for regular visiting hours this upcoming Monday on November 25th. And after a long wait, the Terrace Hospital is now entering the move week for certain patients and visitors. People who are in medically urgent situations will be taken in as patients, but visitors can also see the new building inside if they have a pre-scheduled appointment or is an essential visitor. People outside of the essential visitor status will not be allowed to visit this Sunday. And while workers and patients get used to their new environment, there will be a few notes to take care of in the official opening week. Parking will be limited to a degree, going from 216 spots to 173. However, there will be 313 spaces available down the line, with 40 spots being freed up in the yellow section on this map. In the meantime, Northern Health recommends visitors to get rides from family or friends or use public transport whenever possible. And on a related note, Northern Health is also launching their Terrace Youth Substance Use Day program. This program is for ages 12 to 18 who are interested in working on substance use concerns. Over a 6-week period, the group will run for a couple of hours to improve healthy coping, reducing harms, and increasing healthy relationships. From CFTK-TV, I'm Damian Smith.
And to go along with the newest people in Premier David Eby's cabinet and their minister positions, Tamara Davidson, who won the North Coast Haida Gwaii riding with relative ease in last month's local election, has acquired her minister position, as well as Davidson was being named the Minister of the Environment and Parks as she joins the quite different looking group of ministers that was put together by Eby. Davidson has previous experience working in public service, including land management, conservation, and strategic planning. In a post on Facebook, Davidson, who is the first ever Indigenous MLA to win her specific riding, proclaimed how excited she was to be the one that was given the responsibility of caring for the environment. Last week, the 2 local Conservative MLAs were sworn into BC's government. where both winning candidates took their oaths. In Victoria, both Skeena MLA Claire Rattay and Bulkley Valley Stikine MLA Sharon Hartwell will represent two parts of the Northwest, with the NDP's, of course, Tamara Davidson, representing the North Coast and Haida Gwaii. Rattay noted that this role comes with a great deal of responsibility and that she is excited to get to work, and she also revealed that she will be announcing her office's grand opening in the next coming weeks. And the Smithers Fire Department was recently needed a new chief after their previous one, Derek Dixon, who left in September in order to be closer to his family. And earlier in the month, they looked within their own ranks and believed that they were able to find a suitable replacement for Dixon right then and there. The department named a man who had been with them for over a decade and had served as deputy chief for the past 3 or so years, and Al-Jan DeVries, who is the newest person in charge of their operations. In a public statement released by the town's chief administrative officer, Michael Dewar, he said that the whole of Smithers was happy to welcome DeVries to his new and very important job. Still to come, body cams are now in use for the BC RCMP. Well, the District of Kitimat has put out a release notifying local residents that the boil water notice has finally been lifted. The removal of the notice was done after it was confirmed by both Northern Health as well as a drinking water officer that the water was safe to consume once again. And the notice had been in place for a 10-day span because the water quality in the Kitimat River had been compromised by excess rain, leading to flood warnings being put into place throughout northern BC. And the large amount of rain also led to Kitimat closing down areas like Hirsch Creek Park, Radley Park and Dyke Road at Columbia Avenue because of the concerns that were related to the rising water levels. And here in BC and across the country, over 10,000 Mounties started to wear body cams starting this past week. And the RCMP shared its rollout plan detailing how the new tool will be phased in across the country. But as CTV's Abigail Turner explains, the cameras come with some controversy.
A new tagline sported by the RCMP: seatbelts off, cameras on.
The whole point of this is to restore trust and confidence.
A feeling they hope body-worn cameras will bring when the rollout begins for all RCMP officers next week, something the Prime Minister pushed for in 2020 when public trust was eroding.
The adoption of body cameras. I'm committing to raising this with the provinces this week so we can move forward as quickly as possible.
Now, 4 years later, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police says the training and testing is complete and up to 15,000 frontline Mounties will be equipped with cameras over the next year and a half.
The objectives of the body-worn camera project are strengthening transparency, accountability, and public trust, resolving public complaints more quickly, improving interactions between the public and police, and also improved evidence gathering.
86 detachments are expected to be operational by next month, using the devices for everything from chasing suspects, taking statements, and pulling over drivers. The federal government will provide $240 million over the next 6 years, with $50 million in ongoing annual funding. Money one lawyer says could be better spent elsewhere.
Police like their toys, whether that's helicopters, fancy cell phone interceptors. Here in Ottawa, the police force, for goodness sake, has a tank.
The Mountie mandate follows the footsteps of local police force policies, including Vancouver and Delta.
21st century policing deserves a 21st century tool, and this is just one of those tools.
Video will be securely stored in a cloud-based system, with officers required to dock the camera at the end of each shift, unable to edit or alter footage. Still, critics raise concerns about privacy.
There is racism and systemic bias in our police forces. A fact, by the way, that the police forces often don't admit and refuse to see. And so who's going to be recorded most often? It's those communities. Who's going to be in charge of when a camera's turned on and turned off? It's the police. And so it only accentuates the power imbalance.
RCMP say there will be repercussions for officers who don't turn on their cameras, but they couldn't say exactly what those consequences would be. Abigail Turner, CTV News, Vancouver.
And a pair of news releases from the Terrace RCMP came out this week, with the first one talking about a driver who collided into the RCMP detachment building. Officers were inside the detachment when they heard a sudden crash, and upon the detachment, a white Ford vehicle was found with a male driver in the seat. He was then transported to the hospital for medical treatment, though no injuries came about. And alcohol is believed to be a factor, and the investigation remains open. The other release is about 2 weeks back with a vehicle rollover on Highway 37 south near Hanson Road, resulting in 2 deaths. A witness reported seeing the vehicle hydroplane go off on the road before landing upside down in the submerged water, and the RCMP will not release the identities of the deceased. A major cleanup is underway after the emergence of a bomb cyclone, which brought winds of up to 170 kilometers an hour in some places, and the damage left behind is widespread. Over to CTV's Rob Buffum with more.
The cleanup is well underway after a night of chaos, including near Souk, where a massive tree toppled onto this home.
6 p.m. we just heard a large crash and a boom,
leaving its owners with a night full of worry but no sleep.
After that, it was listening to this tree settling, which was what's going to happen, like how bad is this going to get?
Last night's bomb cyclone left a path of destruction in its wake across Vancouver Island. Winds gusting up to 170 kilometers off the coast of the island, knocking down trees across roads, snapping power lines, and creating havoc with highways.
Watched a few cars smash through some trees and branches and left on the side of the road.
The fierce wind lifted and tossed this small aircraft off the Courtney airstrip like a toy plane, and sent large branches flying, shutting down Highway 4, where traffic was backed up today, cutting off communities like Port Alberni from the rest of the island. Meanwhile, old-growth trees that fell near Tofino left folks there stranded overnight.
Basically cut Tofino in half on the highway, and so people couldn't get through either to get home or get downtown last night. Some had to walk around, some crawled around through the bush, and the people slept in their trucks.
At its peak, the storm left 150,000 homes on Vancouver Island dark.
From Port Renfrew to Port Hardy, it hit basically every community on the island. We had crews working throughout the night. We had brought crews over from the mainland before the storm hit.
A fleet of BC Hydro trucks boarded BC ferries to help restore power to the remaining 75,000 customers still without power. A task predicted to take days. Winds were still strong in Victoria by midday, but dissipating. A reprieve before another storm was expected to blast here Friday morning.
Similar to what we just saw, right now we're just tabulating exactly how strong those winds will be.
As Islanders brace for a storm season that's hitting its stride.
And according to a new release put out by BC Transit, they are soon going to cease the selling of their legacy fare products in the major Northwest transit systems. So on December 1st, items like the monthly passes or the 10-ride tickets will not be available to anyone who uses the regional transit systems in Terrace, Kitimat, or Smithers. But BC Transit is launching several other new products to go along with the various changes that they are making, like single rides, 10-day passes, as well as 30-day passes. And it was also noted that prices for these new products would be similar to ones in place for the legacy fares. And that will be all for this week's edition of A Week in Review. Make sure to tune in to our regular newscast as well this Monday at 5, 6, and 11 o'clock here on CFTK-TV. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good night.